Well, let's head over to the United States now, where a harrowing photograph of two migrants who drowned while trying to cross over from Mexico has brought home the human cost of the migration crisis. The picture, which you'll see on your screens now, shows a father and a daughter lying face down in the water along the banks of the Rio Grande. The little girl's head is tucked inside her father's T-shirt. Well, let's talk about this a little bit more. Hanan Ferjani is in the studio to do that. Hanan, these images like this become incredibly symbolic very quickly, don't they? Just tell us the story behind this one.
Well, this picture, Belle, is not for the faint-hearted, as you have just described it. It really shows a poignant story. It's the story of a young father, a Salvadorian migrant, and his 23-month-old daughter, who were both escaping, trying to flee violence in their country. But unfortunately, their journey ended in a very tragic way, and they both drowned while trying to cross the Rio Grande from Mexico into Texas. Now, the story was told by the photographer who captured that moment. Her name was Julia Leduc, and she had that picture published in the Mexican newspaper La Jornada, and she said that basically Martinez Ramirez, the father, was frustrated after trying to seek asylum with U.S. authorities for months, and he was not able to, and eventually resorted to swim across the river instead, and we know how that ended. Now, this picture has already been dubbed the Aylan Kurdi moment for the U.S. southern border crisis. You may recall that very viral picture from 2015, which showed a boy, a 3-year-old Syrian boy, who drowned off the Greek island of Kos. Well, people are drawing comparisons between the two images and saying that this is showing, the human cost of these kinds of crises and the plight, in this case, of hundreds and thousands of migrants coming from Central America who are trying to escape violence in their country. Now, many voices have raised and tried to put pressure on the U.S. administration, on President Donald Trump, and telling him to better address the growing emergency in the region.
And of course, images like this can become a real focal point, and all eyes now turning to Trump and to those migration policies. Just tell us why they're so controversial.
Well, it's controversial because of how it showcases the humanity. It's beyond the hard facts, beyond the figures. It shows that those are actual people, and their lives are at cost and at risk right now. And there's been growing controversy over the way that the southern U.S. border is being handled by authorities there, especially the way that detention centers are being run. According to recent reports, migrants who are caught crossing the borders are detained in detention centers for days, sometimes weeks, sometimes even months. And the system is struggling to process the volume of cases, especially asylum seekers who are flocking in or trying to flock in very high numbers. Now, many of those who are being held in those centers are children, with approximately 2,000 minors being held in detention centers every day. And activists, of course, have vehemently criticized the way that things are being run there, saying that those are inhumane behavior. And we also remember the controversy over the separation of families that happened over a year ago. That's also been part of the whole outcry over the situation. And in the midst of all this criticism, there's also been reaction from authorities. And John Sanders, the acting commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Agency, has just recently announced that he will resign and has basically backed down in the face of pressure. And on the political front as well, the Democrats are also pushing for more action from the government and saying that they will move forward with the approval of an emergency $4.5 billion humanitarian aid bill to address the plight of migrants at the border.